Did you see it? The card that recently hit eBay, the card that is almost at the time of recording at $10,000 with more than a day left on its auction on eBay. The MetaZoo card, one of the oldest cards in the game, largely considered the holy grail of MetaZoo. You don't see these go for sale very often anymore. We're going to talk about what is going on with this card. How can it command such a massive value premium during a bear market when everything's on fire? What's going on with the pop reports? We'll talk about the PSA graded reports. We'll talk about some comparisons and whether or not there really are as many of these in circulation as some people still think. This is everything you need to know. Let's go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Argos Anonymous. I am Argos. Yes, if you didn't already gather what I've been talking about, a 2020 sample MetaZoo Mothman is currently on eBay up for auction. It is graded by PSA, and the grade they gave it is an 8. Let's take a look at this auction and get right to it. There she is, ladies and gentlemen. So at the time of recording, by the time you see this, there's only going to be about half a day left on this auction, so I assume the price will have continued to climb. It's currently at $9,600 for this beautiful PSA 8 2020 MetaZoo Mothman. This is a beautiful rare card, considered by most to be the holy grail of MetaZoo. Isn't it amazing it's already been 3 years? It's been 3 years since these sample cards were put out. I mean, time flies, guys. We have the War MetaZoo set coming out. That'll be, I believe, the end of the first original block of the MetaZoo TCG Cryptid Nation, and then it's going to be maybe some filler sets like 7 Seas, and then it could be off to Yokai Island. Isn't it amazing? It's been 3 years since the origin of MetaZoo, since they handed out sample cards like this. I don't know, it just seems like time flies. You know, we've got the War set coming up that'll cap off the first MetaZoo TCG game block Cryptid Nation before we go on to the next. And all the way back here, we still have these original black bordered sample cards. So these sample cards were handed out to distributors and fans basically for free. I think you could buy them for like $1 or something at the beginning of MetaZoo. And I just wanted to talk about the circulating population that is assumed for these cards. Now, we all know, if you've been a MetaZoo fan for a while, that originally approximately 100 of each MetaZoo sample card was created, but it is my belief that far fewer than 100 are still circulating. You know, like when you go to those conventions, when you walk around to these random booths, and or if you're a retailer, if you're a store, and people send you promotional stuff, how much of that gets thrown away or put into a pocket or given to a kid who like chews it up or puts in the washing machine? Kind of a lot of it. Yeah, some of us save everything, but if you're a retailer or a distributor or a cryptid museum and people are sending you stuff in the mail all the time and you get some little black border cards you don't really recognize, like, you might just give them to a kid or leave them on a desk, or they end up in the trash with some of the other stuff. I think that is what has happened to a lot of the MetaZoo sample cards, and this is why. Okay, so it's been 3 years since the MetaZoo sample cards were distributed. It's been 3 years, okay? That's a pretty good amount of time, especially in the world of MetaZoo where you have super grails like this that people are going to grade. For the most part, they're going to grade them really fast. Supposedly there are 100 MetaZoo sample Mothman circulating, but look, we've only had 30 that have hit PSA. Only 30 in 3 years. 30 of the samples have hit PSA, and I'm going to assume that some of these 16 PSA 9s have actually been sent in multiple times to try to get the 10, okay? Because that's what people do for these high-end cards. They'll send in for a 9, they get the 9, they feel like it should have been a 10, they're going to crack the case, they're going to polish the card up, send it back in, and try to get a 10 again, okay? So, but whatever. So we'll say 25 to 30 sample Mothman have been graded by PSA. Now, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, well, people have sent some of these to other companies. It's true. There's a few Mothman at CGC, there's a few Mothman at BGS. The vast majority are PSA because the vast majority of value collectors know that PSA is where the value is, okay? So that's where they ended up. You can see we have 10 PSA 10s. We have supposedly 16 PSA 9s, and then we have 4 8s. Somehow we skipped 7. We got a bunch of 6s, and then we have a 5. So this, as a PSA 8, only an 8, is already going for almost $10,000, which is crazy. Or maybe by the time you see this, it'll be at 10 or 11 or 12. It's really, really wild because people are assuming that a bear market means all things go down. But the truth is, you got to remember that the 1%, the most affluent people in trading card games and collectible spaces and investing as well, they still have money. Okay, so the kind of people that chase this stuff, they're playing the trend. Yes, they're trying to play market trends and timing. They're trying to get the best deal they can. But at the end of the day, they still have disposable income to spend on things. So you still often see demand for these high flyer items. They also do tend to be extremely volatile. Sometimes the high, look at the first edition Shadowless Charizard. The volatility in that card is insane. It's like real estate in Honolulu or real estate in San Francisco. A lot of times these like high-end markets are some of the most volatile things. Tech stocks on you get it's the FOMO, it's the hot money stuff, right? But at the end of the day, the people who buy them still have money. So even in a bear market, there are people who are going to drop 10 grand, 15 grand, 20 grand on a Grail for MetaZoo when they see what MetaZoo is doing, all the partnerships, all the progression. Yes, it's a new small company. Yes, it makes mistakes. It does things, it learns, fine. But clearly there is a meaningful, successful path forward. And so people are putting their money where their mouth is, and they're going in here and they're buying these Grails. Now looking at the pop report again, check this out. Okay, so you got, so supposedly you have 30 PSA sample Mothman. Well, let's look at the Revive Moth. Taking a look at this Revive pop report, what you have is, so this Revive base set Cryptid Nation Mothman, the unscratched and scratched version, right? Because the scratched converts to the, or the unscratched converts to the scratched, fine. Okay, so I'm going to consider them all part of the same sort of population, okay? Now, we know that supposedly between 50 and maybe 66 of these were printed. Of the first original, like, skateboard collaboration the MetaZoo did with the Revive base set Mothman, the last iteration of the famed Reserve List Winged Attack base set Mothman is the Revive Mothman. Now, these came out about a year and a half after these sample cards were distributed. And if you look at the PSA pop reports, even though it's a 2022 card instead of a 2020 card, even though supposedly half as many of these were printed as the sample Mothman, there are already 25 that have been graded compared to 30 sample moths. Explain that. I'm telling you, like, I think most, or maybe half, or maybe 40% of the sample cards have been lost and destroyed. When you look at how quickly people will go and grade these rare promos, these Grails from MetaZoo, and when you look at how few of the sample cards, even the most Grail of Grails for sample cards, how few of them have been graded by overall PSA, which is what most people use, then it just doesn't make sense that there's still 100 circulating. There have to be fewer than 100. And if you think about it, it makes sense. People wouldn't know what they were. They get sent to a distributor. They get chucked in a pile somewhere. They get tossed. They get sent to a store. They get handed to kids. They end up in the yard. I think that's what's been going on. When you look at this MetaZoo Revive Cryptid Nation Scratched and Unscratched Hollow, what you have is the scratched version has 3 that have been graded. None of them have graded a 10. And the unscratched base set hollow version has 22 that have been graded for a total of 25. And it looks like 3 of them have been given a 10. I have one of those. And then there's supposedly 19 9s. A lot of these were off center. It's kind of a fun fact. It's really hard to get a 10 in these unscratched Revive base set Mothman. So it is interesting that this unscratched Mothman is actually by pop more rare than the sample Mothman. A very, very, very rare base set Winged Attack Mothman. But at the end of the day, the sample Mothman is the original holy grail basically of MetaZoo, and that is shown in that the big money players are out there chasing it. So we're gonna have to see where this thing ends up. It's really interesting to me to see where the Grail of MetaZoo sells on open auction on eBay. Yes, it's just a PSA 8, but where it will land on the free market during a bear market. This will be a great barometer for on the high end of MetaZoo collectors, like MetaZoo retailers, people that are willing to put some skin in the game in it, where they feel MetaZoo is headed and what is their pocketbook vote of confidence on this auction. So we'll do a follow-up on this once it ends, but for now, that's all I have. All eyes on eBay. Thank you, MetaFan, for stopping by. As always, I do appreciate this opportunity to entertain you fine peoples of MetaZoo. This is Argos, signing out.